it's been announced that the government plans to lift the moratorium on shale gas exploration with fracking. That sounds great until you think, well, yeah, but it requires a local consent. And there is no one who understands the issue of local consent more than my next guest I'm delighted to have on the show, Lorraine Allanson from Yorkshire. Lorraine, a very good afternoon to you. How are you? So, I don't know if you...
I'm fine, thanks.
I don't know if you heard any of that debate with Bob Ward, but the issue of shale gas, I mean, you were very involved some years ago. You wrote a book about it. What's your views about the lifting of the moratorium? Are you excited by that, or are you deeply gloomy about the issue of local consent and may it never happen?
I'm really thrilled that they have lifted the moratorium on shale gas, but I have reservations of how it was done by the government, because they should have put together a good PR programme that would have got the truth and the facts out there about what happens with hydraulic stimulation. Instead, we were back to this circus of protesters and claiming they're going to protest everywhere. You've got to remember, last time I lived in a community that were affected by a shale gas well near Kirby Misspitten, near Pickering. And what happened was we were invaded by outside protesters, and locals didn't get a voice. And if you tried to have a voice, which I did, I was in favour of shale gas, you were silenced. And I'll just give you a quick rundown of some of the things that happened with these peaceful protesters. There was a company that was supplying my broadband, and they cut my broadband off because I was in favour of fracking. And they denied it, but actually they sent that email at the precise time I was speaking in favour of the planning application at North Yorkshire County Council, so they can't deny that. Also, we had protesters. They took over a farmer's field and built this ramshackle, dirty camp. And when they finished with the camp, by the way, they just made a great heap of the refuse and burnt it. And they said they were burning their war chamber. You know, and the antics they got up to, they would block the village street by laying across it, locking on. They would jump on lorries, hijack lorries. And they would also, one of the worst things they did was they broke into the well site, climbed the workover rig and set off a live flare above a live gas well site, endangering not only the workers, but the police and the local villagers.
So, Lorraine, your experience has obviously been that the anti-shale gas lobby will be very intense and unpleasant and potentially aggressive. So looking forwards, do you fear that in a sense, subject to local consent, which is the sort of that's the condition, do you think that essentially is going to stop it?
But I think it has to be made of national significant infrastructure, actually, so that you can't have all these protests and you get these green NGOs, Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace, Food and Water Watch, who are actually based in America and not based here at all, but they campaigned against fracking over here. You know, they take over the narrative. When do the locals get actually a voice? And how will they define local support? Will we get a referendum? How are they going to do that? You know, because you're going to get all these outside voices coming in, which we did last time, and they take it over. I mean, to be a councillor, because somebody said about, well, let the local councils decide. But I've been in planning meetings, that the protesters are there. They've got placards stuffed in the faces of the councillors. It takes a brave councillor to say, yes,
it does, indeed.
They're very much intimidating and bullying.
And Lorraine, there's a suggestion that I put forward some time ago that I think is under active discussion by the government and indeed by the industry, which is, and I have an expression, a national planning regime with fixed local compensation. And if there's the idea that people within X number of miles of, let's say, a shale gas pad would receive a discount off their bills of, for example, 50% for the duration of the pad, to what extent do you think that might shift the numbers on local consent?
I think it'll certainly help. I don't like the word compensation, by the way, because it's not the end of the world. It's been overhyped. Has the issue of shale gas.
Let's call it a discount, but you get them. You get my meaning.
Discount. I think direct payments to people who live near well sites would be a great thing. It's a bit like in America, they own their own mineral rights so they get royalties. Well, let the local communities benefit. Yeah, I'd love cheaper energy. I think that would be fantastic. It's got to bring benefits, and I think that's an ideal way of doing that. And I see they're talking about actually a sovereign wealth fund about the profits from shale gas. That would be brilliant. Norway has one, and they can rely on that to help them. They've used it, I think, recently, to help their country with inflated energy prices, So there's a lot that can be done, and I think it would help persuade people to accept well sites. I live in the Vale of Pickering. It's a gas field. There's 9 well sites, and there was a generating station. They've actually decommissioned that at the moment. But you don't know they're there. I've lived through it. There was a fuss when they were going to build the generating station back in about 1990. We had the same thing for testers. It's been there running perfectly well. Nobody's died. Nobody's been poisoned. Nothing's happened. You don't even know it's there operating. Same with the well site.
And obviously, this is a really big thing. When I've campaigned knocking on doors in the north, where obviously communities have had jobs and wealth created from essentially from mining historically. People understand the importance of using the energy treasure. My sense is that actually the majority of people would support it, particularly if they live near and they're going to get a bit of a discount for some lorries trundling by. But I guess the key is the government's got to they've got to issue planning consent at the national level. Do you agree with that?
Yes. You can't leave it to local councils and local people. It's got to be done nationally, really, by the government, because you're only opening people up to the next level of the circus that we had before, and that's really hard on the locals, and it's cruel to put them through it again. And also, that leaves it open for legal challenges by the green NGOs, who are only doing that to delay the process all the time, and they're profiteering from it, really.
Well, actually,
scare the population.
No, you're so right.
And they scare the population, and then they'll get donations.
And there is an issue about and there is an issue.
Green NGOs.
There is an issue, Lorraine, with the legal challenges, what they call judicial reviews, is that they are run on what's called no win, no fees by some of the very smart, very sharp London-based lawyers who know how to do this stuff. And again,
Absolutely.
that doesn't seem fair. Just one final point, Lorraine. Lots of people on the other side of the debate, the anti-shale gas lobby, the Labour Party and co, they're saying, well, it wouldn't make any difference to the prices. Do you agree with them, or do you agree with me?
I agree with you, because it will make a difference to the prices. The more you produce of something, the cheaper it gets. But if you're allowing the local people to have cheaper energy, that helps them. Also, they could do, the industry has actually volunteered that they would, allow, they're willing to sell the gas at a contracted price, is what I'm trying to say. And also, by producing our own gas, we will be displacing LNG that we're having to buy very expensively. Now, we're taking the market, LNG, off poorer countries because we're too precious to produce our own gas. Who do we think we are that we shouldn't be providing our own gas? Are we so important in the world that we want to buy fracked gas from everywhere else and allow other countries to be even further impoverished because we're going to buy all the gas? We need to produce our own, and it needs to be from under our feet. A
good one here, and actually, just whilst we've been talking, Lorraine, Tony has tweeted in, Richard, I back fracking, but who owns the gas? Or is it like minerals with the gas below that it's owned by some ancient lord?
It's not owned by an ancient lord. I believe the government owns the mineral rights.
That's absolutely right. It's owned, Tony, to answer your question, it's owned by all of us. It's our treasure because it's actually owned by the Crown Estate, and the Crown Estate is owned by the Treasury, and of course the Treasury, that's taxpayers' cash. Lorraine, thank you so much. This is the beginning. I suspect there's going to be some long debates, some fairly hard battles ahead, but I know you are a big advocate and you've got more experience almost than anybody in this topic in terms of trying to get local consents and the anti-lobbying. We're going to take a quick call now.